Hello, I'm Dan Rather, and welcome to the CBS Evening News Online edition. Just ahead, is Syria getting the message? We'll give you a look at how Syria's arrest of Saddam's half-brother may spell trouble for Iraqi insurgents. Also, day one in the Michael Jackson child molestation trial. We'll have the details. And our CBS series, A Reporter's Notebook, looks at how coverage of the Kennedy assassination changed television news forever. It's all starting now on the CBS Evening News Online edition. It was a massacre. A suicide attacker set off a carload of explosives in Iraq today, killing at least 115 Iraqis and wounding about 130 others. The White House said the deaths of so many proves those behind such attacks are, quote, enemies of the Iraqi people. And Iraq's government again vowed to defeat the terrorists. CBS's Kimberly Dozier reports the attack happened in Hilla, a mostly Shiite Muslim town 60 miles south of Baghdad.
In an instant, a suicide car bomber committed the worst single act of terrorism since the fall of Saddam. The bomber plowed his car into a line of Iraqis waiting to take medical exams, hoping to join the Iraqi security forces. The blast vaporized those closest. Doctors say many of the victims will never be identified. But Iraqi officials say they are making progress against the insurgents, with the high-profile arrest of Saddam's half-brother, Sabawi Ibrahim al-Hassan, over the weekend. A former Saddam advisor and the six of diamonds in the Pentagon's deck of most wanted, al-Hassan allegedly funded and directed the insurgency from exile in Syria. Iraqi officials hope his arrest will begin to cripple the militants.
I think by end of summer this year, the situation will be totally different.
Baghdad's leadership also sees Syria's cooperation as a sign Damascus is finally listening after pointed Iraqi complaints that Syria is fueling the terror. U.S.-funded Iraqi television has been airing the confessions of a man who claims to be a Syrian intelligence officer. He says he carried out beheadings on the orders of Damascus. Our operations were car bombings and targeting Americans, and later, he added, assassinations and torture. The video from a Mosul TV station has mesmerized and outraged Iraqis, angry at Syrian interference.
This is the pure criminals, pure terrorists.
In our society, it's very important. The TV shows such things.
The charges against Syria have put the Damascus leadership on a collision course with the White House. By capturing one of America's worst enemies here, Syria is clearly hoping to get back into the good graces of Baghdad and Washington. Kimberly Dozier, CBS News, Baghdad.
In California, the judge presiding over the criminal trial of pop star Michael Jackson doesn't want a repeat of the O.J. Simpson trial. The judge warned he will have zero tolerance for antics by the prosecution or defense. CBS's Vince Gonzalez reports on opening statements today from the attorneys in Jackson's trial on child molesting charges.
On a cold, wet California morning, probably the most famous man ever to stand trial on criminal charges strutted past the cameras for day one of the People vs. Michael Joe Jackson. After 15 months that began with a stunning arrest, a flood of leaks, rumors, outrageous behavior, and carefully staged press appearances, District Attorney Tom Sneddon delivered a somber opening statement in which he said Jackson molested and manipulated his young accuser, a cancer patient, by, quote, exposing him to strange sexual behavior.
I sleep in bed with all of them.
Some jurors were clearly disgusted as Sneddon read transcripts of this documentary that triggered the investigation, in which Jackson says it's okay to share your bed with children.
When you say bed, you're thinking sexual. They make that sexual. It's not sexual. You know, we have little cookies. It's very charming.
But Sneddon says instead of cookies and bedtime stories, the singer gave children alcohol and showed them internet porn. Just the first of what is sure to be a litany of disturbing, explicit allegations.
Is this case going to reach a point where people are going to be hearing things they just want to tell?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I mean, you know, we already know enough about the story to know that there are going to be moments in court that are graphic and gross. This case is not the most important case in American history. It's important because people know about Michael Jackson.
And that, said Jackson defense attorney Tom Mesereau, is the point. The accuser's family approached several celebrities looking for cash, including Tonight Show host Jay Leno, who allegedly told police the family was, quote, looking for a mark. Mesereau said, quote, the most vulnerable celebrity, Michael Jackson, became that mark. The first prosecution witness takes the stand on Tuesday. Vince Gonzalez, CBS News, Santa Maria, California.
Finally tonight, it's been my privilege to report to you and share with you some of the most memorable moments of the past 4 decades. We thought this would be an appropriate time to reopen our reporter's notebook and, over the next few nights, revisit some of those moments and visit anew with people we met along the way. Jim Lavelle still has the demeanor of a police detective, is still partial to white cowboy hats, and though retired, is still in demand.
I have talked to schools all the way from Maine to Wyoming.
Because 41 years ago, this former cop's biggest case changed a nation. When a young president
it appears as though something has happened in the motorcade route
was gunned down by a sniper on a Dallas street. 2 days later, Jim Lavelle was there for the murder of the sniper who had killed the president, Lee Harvey Oswald.
Oswald has been shot.
That's him in the white hat, handcuffed to Oswald. In a matter of seconds, the country and America's media landscape changed forever.
Here is a bulletin from CBS News.
The world's biggest story, breaking at the very time television news was coming of age. Technology that for the first time took viewers live to where news happened.
This is Dan Rather at the now infamous corner. The corner window just below the top floor is where the assassin stuck out his .30 caliber rifle.
The president was hit in the head. That's an unconfirmed report.
Suddenly, news could be immediate. CBS News was the first to report the unfolding tragedy.
We just have a report from our correspondent Dan Rather in Dallas that he has confirmed that President Kennedy is dead.
At that moment, when the president had his right hand up to this side of his face, he lurched just a bit forward. It was obvious that the first shot had hit him.
It was the beginning of round-the-clock coverage. Regular programming preempted to make way for news events. The stunning Oswald killing carried live.
And that's a scuffle on the basement floor.
Followed within hours by details about the latest tragic twist.
The man Dallas police accused of assassinating Lee Oswald was known in Dallas as Jack Ruby.
It's difficult today to recapture the sense of trauma and shock of the events over those 4 days in November 1963.
The assassination, then the murder of the assassin, the sorrow, all carried nonstop, drawing the entire nation into a single community of grief. Even 4 decades later, the events remain vivid to many Americans. Jim Lavelle still busy on the lecture circuit. The assassin's gun nest is now a museum, and the jail cell where Oswald was held may soon become a new tourist destination. The legacy for today's television news cemented by those days in Dallas.
You do see television rise from this medium that people would often look down their noses at as a boob tube or a vast wasteland. After the Kennedy assassination, everybody knew that television was the central arena for American culture, and that in times of great tragedy, it could actually rise to the occasion.
More stories are just a click away, but be sure to join me on television for the on-air edition of the CBS Evening News. On Tuesday's broadcast, The Battle for Civil Rights. We'll give you a look back at one of the most important movements in modern times as seen through the eyes of those who lived it. A reporter's notebook rolls on. For CBSNews.com, I'm Dan Rather.